Hi, we are here today with Linda McLain. She's a very well-known, very well-established family law mediator here in Texas, and she also does a lot of really nice public service, including being chair of the State Bar of Texas ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution section. We appreciate her being here with us today. We just want to have a conversation about online family law mediations. And so, Linda, I know you've done a lot of sort of traditional in-person mediations, and you have transitioned to doing some online mediations. What are some general things that you're seeing in the online family law mediation sphere?
Thank you for having me, Gene. It has been an interesting transition for most family lawyers who are doing mediation, whether they're functioning as an attorney for one of the parties or instead working as the mediator. I know that from the standpoint of being a family law mediator, I was very resistant for many years about this notion of online or remote mediation. But once we got thrown in the deep end, certainly without tech support, and had to do it, that it became something that we all adjusted to very quickly. As mediators, it is our calling to adjust on the fly to what is happening in the conversation that we're having with our clients and with the folks who are trying to resolve their disputes. So it's been good for me. It's taken me out of my comfort zone, and I think that it is here to stay, not just in Texas, but perhaps globally, that remote mediation is going to not only be the wave of the future, it is here now. And I certainly anticipate that it's going to change the way I personally practice my mediation skills on a day-to-day basis.
What are some of those changes that you're thinking about in terms of what you're going to do to change?
One of the things that has been a surprise to me is that it has enlarged my area of reach as far as being able to provide services to others. I know that I'm picking up cases further and further out geographically from where I'm located here between Houston and College Station. It's given me the opportunity to work with new people, certainly new counsel, and that's been a great way to grow my business. But besides that, it has given me the opportunity to help people who are in crisis mode. None of us have known what to expect from this pandemic, and certainly we haven't really had a roadmap to take us through that process. So I think that as mediator, we are in a key role to step into that gap, especially for families in transition, because there's uncertainty about when we're going to be able to access the courts, what that's going to look like. I think that there is great resistance in some segments to trying cases online, especially jury trials. So I think it's an opportunity for mediators to really fill a void and help people who are in that transition mode to be able to complete the process and move on with their life with some certainty.
Linda, I'd like to kind of transition a little bit into the different roles that we see in family law mediation. And if you don't mind giving us some guidance and support and advice for each of those particular components of the mediation process. So the first would be the parties. What advice would you give to people who are parties to a family law situation that find themselves doing a remote or online mediation?
The main thing is preparation. I believe that just simply logging into a meeting and having a conversation with your family member that you're transitioning to a different construct for your family, it is not enough. There has to be some thought and preparation, not only between the clients themselves, but with their attorneys. I can't stress enough that without preparation, without some thought about how this is going to work, it's merely that, a conversation, and don't see those going as well as those where attorneys are preparing with their clients. The client knows what they want. They've thought about it ahead of time. They know where their hard lines and their soft line boundaries are about what they're willing to consider to resolve the case. And with that preparation, anything's possible.
You mentioned attorneys. What are some things attorneys can be doing to help their clients to make a family law mediation that's online or remote successful?
One of the things I'm seeing from some of the Brazos County lawyers that I really like, and again, it's a smaller legal community, so there is that camaraderie and basis for repeat interaction with one another on cases. But it's been really helpful to see that they are, in some cases, abandoning the formal discovery in favor of getting to mediation, getting it resolved, exchanging their documents that they want to talk about in mediation electronically ahead of time. They're providing that information to me, which I've not always had access to in the past before mediation started. And the remote or online mediation model is really helpful because everybody's looking at the same document, talking about it together, as opposed to what I would think more traditional litigation-driven models would say, well, we're not going to, exchange this. We're going to hold it back. This is our work product, and we're going to save it for a contested trial. I don't see that proprietary attitude as much as I did in the face-to-face mediations.
Is this something too, as a follow-up, is this something too where the technology helps? I'm thinking about things like screen sharing, and someone can put a document on the screen, everyone looks at it and gives their opinions or interpretations about it.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I'm seeing, and it's really helpful to me. I have a large computer monitor, as well as I'm currently Zooming with you on my iPad, but it's nice to be able to have that screen share and have the ability to look at something, mark it up or talk about it, put it up on the screen share, and know that we're all looking at the same document. It creates, whether it's intended to or not, it creates a better sense of camaraderie and of collaboration. And I really believe that that is helpful in getting things resolved.
I want to validate that if I can. I was involved in a mediation recently. I was co-mediating, and one of the things that we did is exactly what you were talking about. There were some documents and actually some sound files, some recordings that one side had and that the other did not know about. And so the one attorney was able to send us the file through the online process, and then we have permission, of course, to share it with the other side. And that sort of openness and transparency and willingness to share things, I've seen that also. And so I think that's a really positive step in remote and online mediations. I'm glad to see and hear that you're hearing the same things too. I think that's a huge step
I am. And did you find that it also tends to build some cooperation between the parties as far as their expectancy as part of that process of sharing, that we're going to reach an agreement, we're going to close the file today, we're going to have this behind us and go into the future with some certainty?
It did. On this one, it went a little long, but it was very good information for the attorney in particular to have, so that attorney could advise his client about the impact, if any, of those recordings and those documents. Yes, in the absence of that, the mediation would not have settled, I'm convinced, and they would have gone into a very long, expensive discovery process.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you about another person in the mediation room, so to speak, and that's the mediator. We've done a lot of stuff about how to use the electronic formats. You have a great resource that's available on the State Bar website about sort of the mechanics of how to do this. what are some pieces of advice that you would give to mediators in the family law case who are doing these things by remote or online services?
I don't find it as much now with attorneys with whom I've had repeat mediation remotely over these last 10 or 12 weeks, but I would encourage anyone who is doing a first-time mediation or who has a client who is not well-versed in how to access and use the Zoom to provide every opportunity for them to become comfortable with it. I frequently will send out as part of my advance packet that I'm going to log into the Zoom meeting some 15 or 20 minutes early so that people can practice entering and exiting the meeting, that they can test their volume, that they can test their screen angle. And during that opportunity, I am physically present and talking to them. It's very conversational. It's very low key and kind of de-escalates their anxiety about being in a mediation, helps to humanize the relationship between the mediator and the client. And it's been interesting to me that it is the key opportunity for me to establish a quick rapport is over all of this new technology that we're all having to become accustomed to. And it creates that bond. Hey, we're all in this together. We're going to get through this together, even if there are glitches, even if we can't get someone unmuted. I laugh. My general advice to folks who can't get up and running on Zoom is please exit the meeting and try again, log back in. And you know, it's amazing how something that simple will work. And again, it does break the ice with the clients. The other advice I would have about preparing for an online mediation is talking about not talking over the person that you are having your conversation with. I know that as mediators, we want to help fix the problem, but the main way we can fix problems are to allow the litigants themselves to talk about what's important to them and to be able to voice their concerns and what got them to this point and how they envision the future looking when that litigation is behind them. So, you know, I've really had to hone my listening skills because I tend to be that person that wants to jump in and try to help fix a problem when I see it or to test what they really believe about something. But I think the validation that comes through just simply listening and then reframing what you've heard to test understanding is the single most important skill a mediator can utilize in electronic mediation.
You know, you've brought up a couple of things that I really hadn't thought about before, but as you're talking about them, it makes so much sense. One is the electronics, so to speak, of what we're using can actually be rapport building. And when we're fumbling through it or when things don't work out, it can help to establish trust. Your trust not only as an expert in mediation, but also in here's a solution to the technology problem. And then the other thing too is not only do we need to be active listening, but we really need to provide more space for silence because of remote technology so that we're not talking over each other. And that space allows us to think and to make sure we're being, sorry about that, my phone's ringing
It's
and
technology.
it's attached to my,
okay.
So, you know, who would have thought? But anyway, so it's stuff that we can laugh about, and yes. it's a big deal, but we can make it not such a big deal, and it gives us something else in common, another problem that we've successfully tackled, I guess.
Yeah. Yes.
Linda, anything else that you would like folks to know about in the realm of family law and online and remote mediations?
I guess just in closing, one of the messages that I try to give all litigants and their attorneys is that this is an uncertain time. It's one where, again, I feel I've repeated myself, but there's not a roadmap. And for that reason, there is every incentive to take control of what the future looks like and how to shape that in a way where there is certainty, predictability, and stability for the children, if that is a factor in their case, but certainly even financially going forward, knowing exactly what that's going to look like. And I believe that we as mediators are in a key position, perhaps even in ways that judges are not currently poised to be able to assist with in providing that service to our clients. And I think this is becoming the age of mediation.
Linda, I want to thank you so much for your time and expertise, not only today, but in the service that you've provided to the State Bar of Texas and the ADR section and to the people of Texas. You're a great educator. You're willing to share in so many different ways, and just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you.
You're welcome. It's been my honor. Thank you, Gene.